time and space. Everywhere and anywhere, every star that ever was. Where do you want to start?
We've escaped from the Aztec temple in the corner of the BBC Lime Grove studio, and we've run out of molybdenum. So let's land on a nondescript spaceship and look for some more. I'm Ian.
And I'm Mark, and welcome to All of Time and Space. This time around, we're going to be looking at the Sensorites. And when we come back, we'll be joined by Ben Schneider.
Out there is a planet we call the Sense-Sphere. Creatures, the Sensorites, somehow they have some control over our brains.
Doctor.
The Sensorites! Get back! Get away!
None of you can ever leave the Sense-Sphere.
What do they want with us?
I don't know. It is useless to resist.
Surrounded by enemies.
Sensorites! They're near us now.
You're in no position to threaten us. I don't make threats, but I do keep promises. I should cause you more trouble than you bargained for. The doctor is near death. The other two approach death. I see victory for all my plans.
So now it's time to welcome our guest. It's the wonderful Ben Schneider. Hello, Ben.
Hi there. Hello. Hi.
How you doing?
I'm pretty good. Ian, Mark, all of time and space.
Yes, all of it.
Now, I have to ask, all, as in all, like, are you guys going to do Dimensions in Time? Question mark?
Of course. Of course.
That's
it's a classic.
That's what I'm looking forward to the most.
Okay. Are you going to do K9 and Company?
That might be a bonus episode. You never know.
Air Zone Solution, maybe? Possibly?
All right, we'll draw the line somewhere.
All right,
Ben.
Yeah, if the doctor's not in it, or you know, oh God, we'll be here all day.
But that had like 8 doctors in it, man. Come on. Oh, well, yeah.
Yeah, and it had Colin Baker in bed with Nicola Bryant. That's not good, is it?
Yeah, there's some things I don't want to see.
Something I never knew I never wanted to see. Do you guys remember the good old days when the big question was whether or not we had to include the Paul McGann movie? Those were the days.
Everything's canon now. It's great.
Yeah.
That was always canon for me. There was never any question about Paul McGann being canon.
Yeah, I love that Peter Cushing's canon now as well. It's great.
Peter Cushing. You know, I've always had a kooky theory about him, but that'll take up an entire podcast. I'm sure we have other things we need to talk about here.
Well, if we run out of things to say about this week's story, maybe we'll come back to Peter Cushing.
All right, deal.
This could be quite a brief one. Anyway, gentlemen, before we kick off with the Sensorites, you know what time it is, don't you?
Oh, yes.
It's time for the glory of my quiz. What I try and do, Ben, is just to kind of recreate the zeitgeist of what was happening in the world at the time the story was first broadcast. I like to ask really stupid trivia questions about that time, and people sort of complain and say it's insanely difficult and I am a fool. But I don't listen to them because haters
you shouldn't
hate.
tell me what I should say. You should just wait and see if I actually say that, you know?
Well, I'm just saying, if you do say it, all I'm saying is you won't be coming back. So,
all right, fine. Take your little quiz and bring us back to the joy that was June 1964. I'm ready. Go.
That's precisely what I'm going to do. Question 1.
Go.
Which member of everyone's favourite cartoon family, The Simpsons, was born in July 1964?
Dan Castellaneta.
Who gets to go first, or do we have to
Mark,
buzz in?
We
or?
just
you just shout
dive
out.
in there.
Just shout
okay.
out.
Yeah.
All right.
Mark's
We should have explained
got
that
it
possibly,
wrong.
Ian.
Yeah, you're right.
Oh.
You're right. I've taken Mark off of my score already for that.
Okay, so it's not the guy who plays Homer.
It's not the guy who
Ben.
plays Homer.
Would
There's
it
a point
be
there, ready for you to grab it.
Abraham Simpson?
It's a nice guess, but I'm afraid it's woefully inaccurate.
Woefully inaccurate. Okay, fine.
That guy.
Hans Moleman. Mo. I don't know. Poochie.
Oh, Harry
Poochie.
Shearer.
It's got to be Poochie.
Wrong, sadly wrong. The answer, I'm afraid, guys, is, and I might be pronouncing this wrong, Yardley Smith, who plays Lisa Simpson.
Oh, I thought you meant.
yeah.
I thought you meant the character on the show, not the.
Well, no,
actor.
because that would be crazy.
Oh, okay, all right.
It's the cartoon. So anyway,
Already lost. That's it. See ya.
hey, it's a draw. It's going really well this
One
time.
and done, Ben.
All right,
One and
fine.
done.
On it.
Question 2.
2. Ready. Go.
Come on, Ben. I've got a feeling this one's for you. July the 9th, 1964, Courtney Michelle Harrison was born in San Francisco. Under which stage name would she eventually find fame?
Elton John.
It's close. It's so
That's
close.
not it.
Ooh.
That's not it. That's not it.
But
no.
it's not right.
The girl from Blondie.
No.
It was
No.
not. It was not Deborah Harry.
It was not Deborah Harry.
Oh, lordy. No, I don't know. Go on. Put us out with misery.
I honestly don't know. I really don't know.
The answer is Courtney Love.
Oh.
You may remember her from such things
Hole.
as being married to Kurt Cobain and
She was born in 64?
64.
Wow.
I
There's-
thought she was a tad bit younger than that. Okay, all right.
I know. Suddenly, I feel really conflicted when I.
Sorry,
Anyway,
Courtney. Okay.
yeah. Question 3, and this is a more of a TV entertainment question.
Yeah.
On July the 11th, 1964, the actor who portrayed the last human, Cloister the Stupid, was born in Liverpool, UK. Name him.
It's Craig Charles.
It is Craig Charles.
Hey!
Oh yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Done, Ben.
So
All
Craig
those
Charles
years
is-
of Red Dwarf playing on PBS has finally paid off. All right.
I'm so pleased for you, sir.
I have to send in my donation. I cannot keep putting that off. I'm sorry, PBS. I owe you like $22. Yeah.
Don't, because they'll be able to afford another series if you send them that much. Question 4. It's another
4.
music question.
Music. Okay.
Christopher John Boyle was born in Seattle. Name one of the 3 bands he is primarily associated with.
Hole.
It's good,
Pearl Jam.
but it's not
Right.
right. Pearl Jam is not right.
Nirvana.
Nirvana is not right.
Oh, fuck.
The
Allison
answers,
Chain.
No, the answers are Soundgarden, Audioslave, or really tenuously Temple of the Dog. It's Chris Cornell.
Oh.
Oh, that guy.
Yeah, Casino Royale himself. Final question. And I can't remember the scores now. I want to say it's 1-1, is it?
It's 1-0 to Ben.
Is it?
Can I just tell you, this is my favorite Doctor Who podcast that I have ever heard. This is amazing. Yeah.
Good. I'm glad. Because, to be honest, the professionality does sort of dip after the quiz, if I'm being honest. Anyway, question 5. Which speed star was born this month in Arlington, Virginia?
Speed Star?
Yeah.
I don't know what
Keanu Reeves.
Speed.
It was not Keanu Reeves.
Oh, the movie Speed.
What's her name? The other one.
The other one is correct.
Blindside lady.
If any of you can tell me what her name is, I will give you the point.
Yeah, her. What's her name? Sandy B.
That will do nicely, sir.
Thank you. Yeah.
2 points and a clear victory.
Cobblers.
It's a moral victory. It's a mathematical victory. It's a victory on paper. It's a
Yes.
victory on Skype. Ben, sir, you are victorious.
This is the
Congratulations,
The
Ben.
story of my life is coasting by on the average, and just so yeah. Thank you. I defer to Mark.
I'm keeping up my record in this quiz. I'm
All right.
doing really well. Anyway, enough of this frivolity.
Yes.
Let's have a chat about a really exciting episode of Doctor Who.
Okay.
Or
I'm
the
ready.
Sensorites.
I'm so pumped. I'm excited. I have Sensorites. I'm ready to go. Go. Cue me in. Go.
I've been looking forward to this for a while. Okay. We should probably come to Ian first because he hasn't seen that much of the black and white stuff. So, Ian.
Oh, really? You
first
haven't?
thoughts?
Hello. I don't... What... You see...
I think you need like a hug or a pat on the back or something, man. You sound...
I put it on and then... And I was a young man, and I pressed play, and at the end of it, I'm a sort of confused, bumbling, grey-haired man who can't act. I am coming to this story completely fresh, having never seen it before. So my hot take, in stark opposition to, obviously the received wisdom of the generations, my hot take is that it was really boring.
Well, I'm not sure it's that much of a deviation from what most people have said over the years. I think it's a bit of a mixed bag when it comes to the Sensorites, from my experience anyway. I think it's had a bit of a reputation. This was one that I was kind of dreading a bit before putting it on, and that's why I asked Ben to come on and talk about it. So I'm so sorry, Ben.
What makes you think I'm gonna like it? Come on, man. Actually, Ian, question. I thought that the received fan wisdom was that this was a very boring, not very good story. Which blogs have you been reading that is trying to make you think the other way?
Well, I don't really read blogs so much, but I'm sure when I was a kid and the Target book came out, I'm sure it was kind of, and this is probably just the confused memories of a 10-year-old kid reading a bit of publisher's blurb on the back of a paperback, but I'm sure it was heralded as an early classic. And when everyone reviews it, everyone always says, if you're doing the watch through of Doctor Who, then this is kind of the first. They call this one the Widowmaker, and if you make it to the end of the Sensorites, you're probably going to be okay. But a lot of people don't.
Oh, wow!
Yeah.
Well, I think your podcast has smooth sailing coming up. After you get over this little hump, man, you're going to be fine.
Well, that is the best news I've had all day. That's even better than when episode 6 flashed up and I realised there was only another 4 hours to go.
Well, I'll tell you what I feel. Do you know the really ironic thing, the personal irony for me personally? If this was a missing story, I would be obsessed with it. I mean, I would be just I would have the recon. I would have the little narrated CD thing. I would be staring at photos, trying to piece back together how it would have looked. I mean, because that's kind of how I am with all of the missing, lost episodes. But it's almost like I'm thankful that they have found this because it's saved years of my life obsessing over it. You know, it's like so I'm very thankful to Ian Levine or whoever it was that actually pulled this up out of the ocean back in the 80s and actually found it, because let's be honest, this episode, this story, this series, it's slow. It's freaking slow.
Yeah.
And it is bland, especially in the middle. It is unbelievably bland. But I would argue the very first episode is amazing.
Yeah, I have to say, I watched this for the podcast for the first time in a long time. And I found myself being really surprised at just how engaged I was with the first episode.
That first episode is so good. There are so many amazing things happening in it. And then it's amazing, equally amazing, how after episode 2, it just nosedives. It tanks.
Okay, well, let's stay positive for a while. Why don't you rattle off some of those positive things and the good things that you thought were apparent in part 1?
Okay, because some of the good things about part 1 that I really loved. For one thing, that amazing shot where the TARDIS doors open, and they physically walk from the TARDIS set to the rocket set. It's all in one shot. They actually built the two sets there, and it just creates this feeling of you're actually coming from the TARDIS into something else. There aren't any quick cutaways. There aren't any CGI. It's just this beautiful, beautiful shot.
I think I remember seeing that they'd moved them to Television Centre, having had them in Lime Grove up until this point. I think they still go back to Lime Grove for some of the shots, but I think the majority of it was done in Television Centre, and they've got a lot more space to play with. So
Lime Grove was like really, really tiny, right? It was in somebody's basement.
It was basically minuscule. Yeah, it's like a broom cupboard.
Okay, all right, yeah, because it's just it's so effective. It kind of reminds me of there's a shot in the actual pilot episode. Unearthly Child that they didn't duplicate when they did the actual pilot when they did the episode 1 of Unearthly Child.
Yeah.
And it's when Barbara first pushes open the TARDIS, and the camera follows her out of the junkyard and into the TARDIS. And then when they did the remount of it, it's just like this quick cutaway thing. And that first one was so much more effective. And so this part in Sensorites, it kind of took me back to that, and it really made me feel like the guys who were actually making the looks and making the designs. I think it was probably Raymond Cusick, wasn't it, who was doing it by this point?
Yeah, he was a designer on the story.
And you could tell he really liked what he was doing. I mean, it's just, I love the way the ship looks.
So Mervyn Pinfield was one of the associate producers, and he came on board to direct, and he was very keen on doing a lot of the technical stuff.
Okay.
And he really wanted to push the boundaries, and I think that's one of the reasons why you get shots like this coming in. So, yeah, I think directorially it's quite interesting, certainly the first episode anyway.
Yeah, and okay, there's something else in the first episode that I absolutely loved was that amazing sequence where the Sensorites, we assume, have taken over the ship, and they're going to crash it into the planet. And it's like, I don't know if you guys noticed, but before that moment happened, Hartnell seemed a lot more tired than normal for some reason. I mean, his dialogue and his line delivery, it was kind of weird. I mean, you could kind of feel like he was just kind of stumbling. But then for some reason, whenever that camera started to shake, and Hartnell just snaps right into action, takes control, he's shouting out orders, and it was really, I don't know, there's something about it. It just had all of this really nice energy to it. And it was very, very, like, fast, kinetic. And I kind of noticed something. Hartnell puts on his little specs, his little glasses, and he's, like, shouting out orders. And I wonder if it's because he had his dialogue taped down to the little table there. Because it seems like his acting just got so much better when maybe he didn't have to worry about thinking about lines. So, and
I know he gets a lot of stick for messing up his lines, but I could count quite a few times where some of the guys playing the Sensorites fluffed their lines. I don't remember him doing
it. but I mean, it's just like suddenly, I mean, he just takes control, and it's a really nice scene, and then it ends with the camera looking over Barbara's shoulder, and you see the view screen, and you see the planet coming at him, and then the planet kind of veers off. And I didn't notice this at first, but when the Doctor gives the final order and they throw the final switch, he turns his back to the view screen, and he does it really, really fast, and it's almost like he's like, okay, I really hope I didn't mess up, and I don't want to see if I did mess up and we all die horribly. And then, like I said, it switches over Barbara's shoulder, and you see the planet come into view. I mean, it's a very cheap sequence as far as special effects go, but the freaking camera work, the sound effects, the POV over Barbara's shoulder, it's just a very cool scene. And then it ends with this great shot of that captain guy, Maitland. That's
a great cliffhanger.
No, I mean that sequence. That sequence ends with the captain guy. he just has this depression on his face, and he puts his hands on his head, and he just goes, "Why couldn't I do it?" And I was like, "Oh, dude, I have so been there." Great. But then, like you said, that very last, that cliffhanger is so good. I don't know if you want to talk about that cliffhanger now or talk about other things, but freaking great. Sorry. Maitland, that's the captain's name.
Yeah. He reminded me of an actor called Andrew Buchan.
Don't know him.
I don't know if you're aware of him, Ian.
No.
And Ben?
Nope.
Never heard of him.
He played Matt Smith's brother in the BBC series Party Animals. He's been in loads of stuff since.
Okay.
He's just been in an Amazon Prime thing. Alex Rider.
Alex Rider. Oh, that's for kids. Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, he's just been in Alex Rider on Amazon Prime.
Okay, and is Andrew Buchan a good actor?
He is a very good actor, actually.
And Maitland reminds you of him?
Well, visually.
Right,
Yeah.
Okay.
Their appearance-wise.
I mean,
Okay,
kind of like the freaking zombie guy, John. He looks just like Broadchurch era David Tennant. I thought, But
I did a couple of times. I did see that, actually, yeah.
yeah, he doesn't really act like him, but God, there's a couple of moments where he's just like.
I think he gets better as the story goes on.
He definitely does. I think the wig maybe tones it down a bit, because the wig is sort of upstaging the rest of him really quite badly. But as it goes on, he does sort of, become the dominant presence in that setup. Mm-hmm. But let's please go back to Maitland. How is that allowed in something that's being paid for and broadcast by grown-ups? I mean, he was
he's just so chipper and freaking happy. I mean, he wakes up out of this freaking stupor, and he's not bothered by stowaways or whatever. He's all like, "Oh, hey there, golly gee, I'm from Central City. How are you guys?" He's just freaking chipper.
Wait,
and
didn't you think it was a bit kind of full on for a kids show? They come out and they're like, "Oh yeah, they're both dead. Well, I better go then."
I love that.
Nothing we can do for them.
I love that.
Okay.
I mean, Hartnell was just like, they're dead. Nothing we can do.
Yeah.
Come on, let's just
screw these losers. But then he puts a little buzzing thing on his chest, and he wakes up from being dead, and he just sort of looks around, and then he's like, well,
he's obviously in hypersleep or something, isn't he?
Hey there, guys.
Hypersleep.
Hungover,
more like.
I mean, for someone who is, we are told, suffering from traumatic brainwashing, he's just, unless that is a result of the brainwashing, maybe he's actually this tyrant captain guy, and the Sensorites brainwashing has turned him into the, "Hello there, guys, how are you?" He's just...
Could be. Wow, that's a great theory.
Oh, gosh, but...
Susan, what do we think about Susan? I think this is one of her better ones. She has been default pretty whiny and generally not that good for the majority of what we've seen so far, but I think they give her a bit more to do in this one, and she gets a bit of that weirdness back that we saw in the pilot episode.
I guess all of that good things that they're trying to do for him, I can't get past the outfit. And it's sort of like, I mean, there's actually a part where she's complaining to the doctor that, he treats her like a child. And I'm thinking, well, maybe if you didn't dress like a 3-year-old, he might. I don't know. I see what they were trying to do, but I've always had trouble really engaging with Susan. Something, I don't know if maybe I don't know. You guys have started watching this from episode 1 till now, so this is definitely her best turn. Would you say?
Well, it's one of the better ones, certainly. I think Marco Polo was probably a high point for her, but yeah, generally she's not that well served, I've got to say. What do you think, Ian?
I think, in this story, she's given rather more to do than the usual, which is, just to walk 3 steps and then scream, and then walk another 3 steps and then scream again.
Possibly because Jackie Hill's on holiday.
I mean,
part of my problem is they're giving her more to do, but the doctor keeps yelling at her to stop doing that and to come and stand over here, and so it's like the story is completely cutting off any coolness that they're trying to give back into her, and then you see her dress like she's going to preschool. I'm just like, I'm like, Barbara, can we all just go with you and on vacation with
Barbara
you?
There is,
so much in this story.
I think there is a moment quite near the start of part 2 where the cast realise they've got another 5 weeks of this shit. And you can sense they're all racing to put in their holiday requests, and Barbara obviously gets up to the producer's office first and gets, a week off, and she's very lucky. And that's, I think, why she comes out of this story the most favourable of all of them, because she's
and the most tan,
guilty by association to the smallest extent.
If you guys listening, if you ever watch Sensorites from beginning to end, if you actually make it over that mountain, there are so many instances where the dialogue between the 4 regulars are like, gosh, I can't wait till we get back to the ship. Gosh, I hope they give us back the TARDIS lock. Gee, I wonder what Barbara's doing. I wish we could go and see her. Gee, I wish we could get off this planet. I have never watched an episode where the cast members were openly complaining about how much they wanted to get out of this story than like this one. It's constant almost, and it's funny whenever I think it's in episode 3 when they tell Barbara she has to stay on the ship. She's told like, "Oh yeah, fine, cool. You guys go on down. I'm just going to stay here. I got no problem. Everything's fine. Go on." She's just
don't mind me.
Be thinking of you. Yeah. I mean, it's just incredible. Going back to episode 1, which obviously everyone else but me is a massive fan of. The moment where one of the Sensorites uses a dental floss thing to burn out the lock of the TARDIS when he's at most 3 meters away from the rest of the TARDIS crew, who are all looking everywhere but at the TARDIS. How bad was that on a scale of 1 to...
Oh yeah, it was terrible. But I think the reason why I like it, I mean, I don't like it, but the reason why I guess I'm giving it a pass is because it's part of... There's so many interesting things going on. And to me, that's just something insane that happens to almost to the point where I love it because it's something insane and totally implausible. Now, something like that had happened in like episode 4, where it's surrounding by boring and bland. I would totally be like, I would totally have a different attitude to it. But because episode 1, I think, is so interesting, yeah, it's a very bad scene and it doesn't make sense, but I kind of oddly love it because it's just part of this. It's just part of the general crazy that's making this first episode fun to me. But I can totally, it doesn't make sense. True.
I think the problem watching the series all the way through from the start is we've now seen, this is what, story number 7, and we've seen this happen, I think 7 times now. They land, they walk 2 meters away from the TARDIS, and something happens that means they can't get back in it. Either it gets hidden, blown up, stolen, tied to
Marco Polo takes away the keys.
Marco Polo takes away the keys. Yeah. The Aztecs brick it up inside a sarcophagus.
Wasn't there a force field in Marinus or something? Or something?
Yep. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. There was a force. And it's an artifice that the show mercifully has done away with. And I hope it doesn't carry on for much longer. I mean, I can remember there's a few more examples of it coming up, but it just seems really clumsy, and I think already we're at the stage where the people writing should have more confidence in the character's ability to stay in the story.
I guess they're still working out what it is at this point, aren't they? We're still...
It's like they need a reason for stuff to happen, but yeah. But did you guys notice how there's also this water theme that keeps popping up in the first series, like where water is trying to actually like kill them, like in Keys of Marinus, the water is full of acid and it's going to vaporize Vord and Ian's tie, and then in what was it, Aztecs? There's like
Aztecs,
this, there's this like drought where they're not getting enough water, and so they have to do the human sacrifices and.
And then Ian nearly gets
drowned
washed
in
away
the,
in the... yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and there's another big one, too.
Marco Polo with
the
Tigana
Tegan guy.
pouring away the water. The Tegan guy.
He like poisons everything.
Struth.
It's like there's this constant...
Rabbits.
And then like here, the water is causing coronavirus on the Sensphere. I can't remember the next episode. I don't think there's a water thing, but that's kind of been a big... get some more ideas, guys. Come on.
That's true. It's either it's water or it's radiation or it's or it's something else Ian can propound about in an incredibly boring, patronising science teacher kind of way. Oh, it's the extruded lengths of the waveforms. Is it really?
You leave
Ian
alone.
Is it really, Ian?
It's an unsuppressed motor. Everyone knows that. Come on, man.
Yeah.
I'll suppress his motor. Oh.
Okay, something else about episode 1. I generally like the premise that does not get paid off, that these are mind control aliens that are brainwashing them, I mean, it's kind of a scary concept, especially when you when you look at the episodes that have come prior to this. It's kind of this brand new way of attacking and scaring someone. Is like the aliens are controlling your mind. Are the aliens making you crash into the planet? Are the aliens keeping you from being able to move everything? The aliens are making John crazy, and the aliens are making you do things. And as you're like watching this, you're probably thinking that the whole series is going to be them trying to battle against the alien brainwashing. There's no way that it's going to devolve into political whimpering. No way. It's so cool here.
Yeah.
That's such a good point.
And there's other things like just on the design element. I have to hand to God, I love the cute little rocket ship labels that they have on their jackets. It's just adorable.
I suppose they're supposed to be functional, aren't they? But yeah, it looks 1950s.
I know, it looks like a
1960s.
kid's show. There's so much about this that kind of makes it feel like a kid's show too, but there's something about it where I'm just, especially in this first episode, there's so many interesting things going. I'm just kind of rolling with it. Now, by episode 3, I'm going to get very angry and tired of it all, but by episode 1, I'm still just loving it, and
yeah,
it's just,
there's a lot of suspense there, I think.
Yeah, there's absolutely suspense, and there's a lot of quietness, where they're just kind of letting a scene play out and try to bring up that creepy factor, and
yeah.
But anyway, the creepy thing goes off the charts when they hit that cliffhanger. That is, I swear, as bad as the rest of this story is, that cliffhanger is so good. It's so atmospheric.
It's cool.
And for people who haven't seen it, the Sensorites have come to the ship in like lima bean shaped spaceships, I might add, which just made me laugh out loud when I saw that. Ian, do you remember that part?
I do. That was just before the darkness descended on me.
Yes. And I mean, I literally laughed, but at the same time, I was kind of glad that they actually made an effort to show an actual ship of some kind, because
they didn't have to, did they?
Like something that used to frustrate me on the old Star Trek, like the 1960s Star Trek, whenever they would have an alien ship and they would put it up on the view screen, it would just be this multicolored paint blob thing, and that always used to bug me. Like, I wanted to see an actual ship, so I was glad that they had, made some sort of an effort to show an alien vessel. And speaking of Star Trek, something I liked about this too is I like the way the Sensorites look here in this first episode. Like, I really like how they've actually tried to make an alien-looking race. They got weird heads and the feet. Come on, they went the extra mile and gave them round toes, man. And because one of the things...
Weren't they tripping all over them the whole time they were filming?
Gotta love them. Because it kind of made me think how on Star Trek The Next Generation, they got so lazy whenever they would show aliens. Whenever they would...
You've got to be walking like John Wayne to sort of walk along without tripping over their own feet, surely.
Made them that much more tough, man. But on Star Trek, whenever they would show an alien species, they would just give him like a crinkled up nose or like a weird ear.
Yeah.
But here in
a ridge on their forehead or
right,
something.
like there you go, alien. And but here the Sensorites, they've actually got the weird upside down beard thing going. They got the sunken in eyes, and
they're pretty freaky.
And again the round feet. So I appreciated the effort. I mean, sure, it's gonna not be good as we go along further, but again, in this first episode, and okay, here's a perfect symbol for how it just tanks. It just starts to really tank after that first episode. Did you notice that when they did the reprise of the cliffhanger at the beginning of episode 2, they got a different Sensorite? Did you guys notice that?
I noticed he was standing in a different way, but I didn't. I'll let you into a little secret. I couldn't really tell them apart.
Okay, all right.
Until they.
Oh, I think that might come into play later.
Hey, because they all look like sort of, middle-aged.
You're starting to sound like you might be a member of UKIP.
No, they all look like testicles. All their heads. They just look like testicles with round feet and grey velour running equipment.
If you are interested to looking back at this, if you look at the end of episode 1 at the cliffhanger, you've got the really cool alien kind of acting like he's floating. He puts his hands up on the glass. He's looking in. His hair is real stringy and crazy, and the music is great. You go back to episode 2 at the very beginning. They don't replay the shot from last week. They actually react it. And it comes to that point. Ian says, Doctor, look. And they go to the window. And he's not creepy. He just basically stands there. He doesn't hold up his hands. He's like, his hair is freaking combed. I mean, the alien from episode 1 was all floaty and spooky with this weird, crazy-ass beard, and this guy just stands up, and it's terrible. And I think this is a symbol of how the rest of the story is going to go, because they couldn't even get the remount of the episode 1 cliffhanger right. So, that just bothered me.
That is a brilliant observation and entirely true. I mean, when I saw it and I noticed I didn't notice it was a different one because they all looked the same to me. But he was standing, slightly taller, shoulders thrust back, and I had this horror that he was going to maybe launch into a song.
Ian, going back to what you were saying about them all looking the same to you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And obviously that plays out a little bit further down the line.
Oh, yeah. It's a big plot point, man.
There's a very renowned movie reviewer on BBC Radio called Mark Kermode, who's brilliant. And he refers to what he calls chubby moments.
Say that again? Chubby
Chubby
Okay.
And that's from when he watched the Carpenters story, Karen Carpenter and Richard Carpenter. And there's a moment where she's reading an article about the Carpenters, and it says about her being a little bit overweight, and she's like, chubby. And that's really sort of hitting you over the head with just how much that's got to her. And there's a moment like that in the Sensorites where he's like, you say that none of you can tell us the difference between us when we're walking around? We could just change our sashes and no one would know.
Yes.
There we go.
So I've been listening to a lot of Australian podcasts, and I believe we call this lampshading now, don't we?
Oh, do we?
I think we do. Yeah.
What?
Oh, okay.
Wait, what do you mean? When you're talking about something you haven't gotten to yet? Or?
When you in a diegetic sense, when you state the bleeding obvious and beat people over the head with it, you are lampshading.
I think I prefer chubby.
Well, it sounds a bit like. It sounds like a euphemism for a semi, and I don't want to think of Mark Kermode in that state of medium arousal.
I don't want to give excuses for this episode, but it just suddenly occurred to me moments like that where the alien looks right at the camera and goes, that never occurred to me before, or where they're overly explaining things. This in a way, this episode feels the most kid show in a weird way. And it kind of reminds me how people were really critical of 2005 Series 1 World War III Aliens of London, because it seemed like the quality suddenly took a bit of a dip, and it was a bit more farty aliens to make all the kids laugh. And the justification that I had always heard was that they hadn't really figured out what tone they were going to go for yet. And like, are they going to make it more of a kids show or more of a drama? And maybe here with Sensorites, the writer or the producer or whatever, they were kind of playing with, we need to make this more obvious for the kids, so we need to have the bad guy look at the camera and say, I never realized that we all look the exact same except for our neckties, and so.
I think that could be true, but it's pretty much the only aspect of the story that could in any way be aimed at children. I mean, the rest of it is so dull. The aliens, as I've said, they're sort of testicle-headed old men who sort of whisper and wang on about their political nonsense and the Sensorite nation, even though it's a planet. I mean,
well, the evil bad guy, the what's he referred to?
City
as?
administrator, the guy with the black collar.
The guy,
the one who looks like a testicle.
He would have been known to kids. If he had his mask off at home, because he was a guy called Peter Glaze, and he was probably best known in the UK for a kids show called Crackerjack, and he always played sort of comedic parts and very sort of bumbling idiot parts. So I think he was really relishing playing someone who was incredibly evil, but whether they would have picked up on his voice, I don't know. But again, that's kind of aiming it at the kids, I suppose.
I guess you're right. It still imbued it with a faint element of bumbling, but I suppose that might be bumbling through osmosis, because the rest of the testicle men were equally bumbling.
I totally get you, because that was one of the other things about beginning in episode 2, is it suddenly switched from being these scary unknown aliens who are brainwashing you to now they're like, oh, turn on the light, the dark scares me. It's very... I felt embarrassed for the guys acting that way, whenever they were like, turn on the light, turn off the light. It was kind of hard to watch, and it's just... and it just gets worse and worse as it goes on. And I'm sure there are cleverer, smarter people than me who would point out that, well, the whole premise of the story is that the scary aliens turn out to be timid, and they need to be saved from scary humans that are killing them all. But, okay, fine, but do we have to sit through 5 episodes of utter tedium to make that point?
I mean, luckily for us, we don't, because now that you've done that jump, we can just sort of we can start wrapping up, I guess.
Oh, dude, you're totally gonna be coasting from this point on, man.
I think it was around about 5 minutes into episode 2, I started sort of vaguely checking Twitter and Facebook. By episode 4,
it's always a bad
couldn't
sign.
feel my legs, and by
oh my god, episode
6,
4,
I was trying to end it all.
One thing I will say in its defence, I think we do get one of the first, what I feel is like a proper Doctorish moment that I could think of a lot of the later Doctors doing.
Okay.
Where the Doctor has to figure out what's going on with the illness, and he figures out between him and Susan that it's a poison, and then he goes and tracks down the source of the poisoning in the water system. That, to me, spoke very much of something that maybe Tom Baker or one of the later Doctors would do. Whereas up to this point, he's been quite a different character.
That's a good thought, because now that I think about it, every episode up until this point, he's getting into the action because he's kind of forced to. Like Marco Polo took the key from him, so he had to engage. The keys of Marinus guy locked him out of the TARDIS, so he had to go through the motions. But then you got like the Daleks, where he's the one that instigates it because he takes out the Mercury or whatever. And but yeah, this is the first time where he, of his own free will, is trying to do the right thing, and do that doctor thing. I never thought of that. See, I've only watched the series from start to end, like back in the 80s. I kind of jump around now, and I kind of sometimes I miss those little character development moments where if I was to just like now, you asked me to be on the Sensorites. I went to the shelf, got the Sensorites, put it in. I hadn't watched the first 6 episodes leading up to it, so to me it just seemed like, the Doctor's doing what he always does. He goes and he investigates and all that. But this was actually, now that you mention it, this was kind of a big character moment for him. He's kind of, I think those lessons he's learning from Iain are really starting to pay off.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. It's another plot on the graph of the character's evolution. And I do love that little montage of him doing science. And there's just like a little 3-second shot of him holding up 2 test tubes and sort of pouring one into the other, and then it fades to something else. And it's like, that's like a Rocky training montage.
And that Sensorite
of an old man doing science.
That Sensorite has the most beautiful penmanship I have ever seen. I was completely
really?
jealous.
Oh, he really good. Does. Really beautiful. I wanted to get him to do if I ever have, any other, perhaps a christening, I want him to do the invites.
In the commentary, the actor that plays him says, I don't know who on earth that is, but it's not my writing. That's really lovely. It's nothing like my writing. It's terrible.
So there was a stunt Sensorite.
Stunt hand, yeah. Stunt calligrapher.
I was trying to think of the word. Yes, a calligrapher. A testicular calligrapher.
But if you are watching this and you want to go off of my theory that episode 1 is great and then it just goes off of a cliff, episode 2 is kind of, it's okay, but by the time they get to the planet in episode 3, you can feel free to just skip it, because it's just, once they get to the planet, it's all just mind-numbingly ultra simple politics and knife in the back politics and whimpering and I don't know. I mean, and the whole time I'm like watching this, I'm like, what happened to the Sensorites that are supposed to be able to read minds? Like, why do they have to argue about if they can trust the Doctor and Iain and all that? Like, can't they just
get
on with it? Yeah.
And why do we have to listen to their interminable conversations about it?
Because they've got loads of episodes to fill before the next story.
But if they're all psychic, they just stand there looking at each other, and it just doesn't work. I don't want to question the underpinning science of it. Oh no, but
Okay, I've got one more positive thing to say, and then I'm out.
Okay,
that.
All right, shoot.
Susan does a description of their home planet. She doesn't name it, so we still don't know.
Oh
what it's
yeah,
called,
of course.
She says the sky is orange and the trees are silver, and that gets carried right the way through the rest of the series, especially in the new series.
I was actually wondering about that. I think that happens in episode 6. I'm going to amend my theory. If people listening to this, people with love in their hearts, if they really want to get into this, you can totally watch episode 1 and episode 6. Skip the 4 that are in the middle, because 1 and 6 have the most interesting things, I think. And one of them is that moment where the First Elder is talking to Susan and says, "Oh, you Earth people are so and so," and then Susan corrects him, and she starts talking about Gallifrey. And I was actually going to ask you guys, I can't remember, has she talked about their planet before this, or is this the absolute first time where she's actually talking about the color of the sky and the leaves and all that?
I know they mentioned that they're from another planet and another time in the very first story, but that's about it, really.
Because it's so interesting that when they made the new series, I guess Russell T knew to go back to this exact moment where Susan is talking about what Gallifrey looks like, and that's what they made Gallifrey look like in the new series and stuff like that. I just love. I love that. That is not fan wank. Yeah. That is being true to a mythology, man. That is awesome.
It's very true, and sometimes the line between those two can be blurred. But in this case, that's fine. I mean, you say, probably half in jest, that people could skip episodes 2, 3, 4, 5. The first 800 episodes, and just come back for the final part of this very long, very boring story. But all the way through it, there is quite a lot of innovation and firsts, and we've unpicked. It's this idea that the Doctor's starting to act more like the Doctor, and Susan mentions Gallifrey, and there's I think a fairly significant bit of conversation in part 1, which I can't remember because honestly I went so numb, all the blood drained out of me. But yes, there are so many little moments throughout this story that sadly mean you kind of do have to watch.
I know there are actually 2 moments in the very beginning and then somewhere in the middle where they talk about where they're referencing stories that have happened to Susan and the Doctor before they met Ian and Barbara.
Oh,
that
that's
is so
right,
cool.
yeah.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, the middle bit is boring, but there's interesting little nuggets here and there. Like I took a note of this one thing. Okay, Carol. We haven't really talked about Carol yet. She has a different hairstyle every episode because she was just that bored.
It does change.
She was that bored, man.
Yeah.
But there's this part where I realize we're jumping all over the place, but there's a part where they have brought zombie John David Tennant guy down to the planet, and the Sensorites are going to try to cure him. So they have him under this weird hairdresser thing, getting his tips frosted, and Carol is talking to the scientist Sensorite about John's brain condition, and the scientist says that he's constantly afraid and crazy because there's a veil in the fear center of his brain that is supposed to shut, but it won't close. And Carol said, "Oh, that's just like a eyelid," and she points to her eye, and the Sensorite looks down like he's in despair, and just like they freaking always do. And he says something like, "To see all the time is not a good thing." I mean, he doesn't have eyelids, and he's depressed that he has to see all of the time. And I didn't, and they never come back to that. And I didn't know what they were talking about, man. But I was kind of thinking, they talk about over and over and over how the Sensorites are super afraid of the dark. And I think that if they actually had eyelids, they would be thrown into a state of terror every time they freaking blink. I mean, all day long, you would just hear them screaming every time their eyes blink. And so, it evolved to where they don't have eyelids so that they're not in a constant state of terror from the darkness. But it's just these weird little things that they just throw in that it's worth watching once, but it's not, I don't think you want to go back to this over and over.
It's not necessarily one you're going to watch for pleasure, is it?
I think the roads not taken in this is so much more like that.
Yeah.
That's a really beautiful idea that, people who can't help but witness everything that happens and they can't, close their eyes. That's a really good idea for a story, but that's just kind of thrown away.
Absolutely.
In the general wash of the story. I mean,
I think you're right. There are so many interesting premises that are set up, and they throw out in favor of this whimpering political story, and the city administrator who realizes that they all look alike, so he steals the sash of the second elder and becomes the second elder, but then somehow because the second elder is killed, he becomes the actual second elder, and this machinations and messing up the map. I mean, all this just we thought we were going to get something where the whole episode is them trying to work out the mind thing and the brainwashing, or I swear halfway through the end of the very last episode is when they actually have the beardy evil humans pop up who has been poisoning everything. I mean, they could have been brought forward a lot earlier. Some more stuff could have been done with that. That would
One, they could have kidnapped Susan, and for 2 episodes she could have been trapped with them, and that would have been...
I thought that those bearded human guys were the best actors in this show. I mean, they were, especially the leader guy. I really believe that he was absolutely nuts. Something about the way they were playing it, I just really was engaged. Maybe it was because I had sat through 4 episodes of whimpering, "Oh, we don't like loud noises. Oh, it's dark. Oh, it's..."
we don't like this. Oh, we don't like your modern beat music. Oh, we don't like any noise after 6 p.m. We don't like ball games. We don't.
If they're so afraid of the dark, how are they on the outside of the spaceship in space where it's dark and? Yeah.
Oh, we don't like zero
How did they
gravity
build
in
the
a
aqueducts
vacuum?
if it's dark
like
and scary?
Oh, we don't like bricks. Oh.
No, I don't like that. No, leave me out. No. But the point is, I think that they're trying to say is that they're not really monsters. They're just misunderstood. So, hey, when you see someone who doesn't look like you better treat them right. I mean, geez,
if
6
you ever,
episodes of just...
meet a guy who's a huge testicle with round feet, you damn well make friends with that guy because he needs a buddy.
But you gotta keep your voice down.
Negativity there for a
just
moment, guys.
keep your
Come
voice
on.
down.
I've thought of one more positive
Oh,
thing.
okay.
I've got one
Okay.
more positive thing as well. So
One more positive
that's
thing.
2. You go first.
The Doctor gets to pimp out in style with that super cool cloak because his coat gets torn to shreds.
It does all go a bit Bride of Dracula, doesn't it? Yes.
Oh, wow. Yeah, he's loving
He's
it. He's
swishing it and
striding
floofing
around
it
like
and-
Lord of the
yeah.
Manor. Loving it.
I found that to be the most unbelievable part because why would the Sensorites... How would they know to make a cloak? I mean, you don't see them wearing anything else except their, long underwear suits. Why didn't they bring out the Doctor?
Yeah.
Here's a long underwear suit for you. Sorry that your coat got ripped.
Well, I do actually know the answer to that.
Oh, yeah?
You don't sort of see it in this story because they're wearing their sort of grey sportswear, but there was going to be a sequel planned where all the Sensorites go to the opera and they all wear cloaks and sort of tall hats. That didn't get made because obviously Peter Newman had writer's block.
Specially adapted opera glasses for their eyes that don't shut.
No one would have done any singing because they'd have known the plot of the opera.
Well, I heard
using their mind powers.
I heard that three episodes in that sequel were devoted to the Sensorites arguing about, no, it's your turn to drive. No, I drove the last time.
Oh, I
No,
don't like popcorn.
I can't go at night. It's too dark.
There'll be a queue for the gents in the interval, and I'll
The opera is too loud. They're attacking me with song. It's too loud, man.
Now, my favourite moment in the story, it's a John moment. I think it's from episode 5 or 6, where I think what was the name of his girlfriend? Is it Carol?
Carol. Yep.
Carol.
Yeah,
Carol's
Carol,
commenting
Big hair
that
Carol.
She likes a nice hot bit of meat or words to that effect. And John sort of laughs very theatrically and says, "You'll have to make do with a small juicy fruit." Now, I'm pretty sure there was a double meaning in that.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, he's talking about the chewing gum, Ian.
Oh.
What did you think it was? Oh. Anyway, do we have any more nice
I have a
things to say
couple
about
more.
this before we
I
wrap this up?
think it's nice when Susan says her very, very racist moment when the doctor is trying to get the second elder / city administrator to come and talk to him, and the second elder takes off running, and then Susan says that must have been really funny seeing them run, and she starts to hold up her arms to imitate them running, and she actually says flip flop, and I know that was kind of racist, but that is the first honest and believable dialogue I have ever heard Susan say ever. I mean, it sounds so real to what someone might actually say. I almost think it's like this ad-lib from Carol Ann Ford. And they just left it in,
You might well be right, because you are so right in that is a real... sort of.
And she actually laughs in it, So.
Yeah, and it's like something that they've maybe brought from the rehearsal room into the studio on the day. It's like,
there was another moment like that too when Ian and the Doctor are in the aqueducts. I think it's episode 6, probably, where Ian sees one of the evil beardy humans with his pointy stick, and the Doctor has his back to him, and he's like, "Doctor, look." And the Doctor doesn't see it, but he sees a second beardy human with a pointy stick, and he's like, "Ian, look!" And they both back up into each other, and they kind of jump. It was a really funny moment that reminded me of the stuff that Patrick Troughton and Fraser Hines would always like throw in. Like they would work out some kind of like a funny moment. And it really made me, it really felt genuine, and it made me think like, I think William Russell and William Hartnell really liked working together for all the craziness and everything. It just seemed like this really genuine, funny moment between two actors who are friends and trying to have a good time,
Yeah, that's nice.
See, something else positive. Oh, Barbara's amazing tan in episode 6. When she comes back, it's just so obvious that she's been on a beach somewhere, and it's glorious, man. And
it's just so good to have her back, isn't it?
Oh, really? Yeah. The minute she comes back, I'm just like, everything's better now. Thank you. And let's see. I got a couple more things. I think one of my favorite things about episode 6 is how you can see where everyone just stopped caring. Absolutely just stopped caring. Like the writers, the producers, the actors. It's like it really shows just how tired everyone is of this story by episode 6, and they just want out. Like, okay, here's some examples. They find the bearded evil humans hiding in the tunnels who think that they're still fighting a war. They walk out, they get caught by the Sensorites, and they're like, oh, well, and they shrug their shoulders and walk off. They just stopped caring. There is no trial or social upheaval when the source of the plague is found. No, they just sent the evil humans home, whatever. They stopped caring. We don't see John and Carol get back together and fly off in their new happiness. It happens off screen. They just stopped caring. They just didn't bother showing it. They oh my gosh, one of the really frustrating things is in the beginning of episode 6, Carol has been kidnapped by the evil second administrator guy, and she sees the evil second administrator guy, and then later on in the episode, whenever she's free, she doesn't say who it was that was holding her. So the second administrator guy is actually asking Barbara and Susan, did she say who it was that was holding her? And they're like, no. And
was it someone in this room?
Yeah, and it's like, they didn't bother asking Carol. Oh, yeah, it was the guy with the black sash, And then when they come back from the aqueducts, there is no closure with the evil second administrator's second elder guy. I mean, we had to listen to his insane conspiracy theories for like 4 episodes talking about how, they're just faking being sick. Oh, they're going to go and get spaceships and come back and kill us all. I will be the second administrator. Nobody looks the same if you're not wearing ties. And you don't see the evil second elder. You never see him getting confronted or captured. He never has a big showdown with the doctor. He's just banished off screen because they just stopped caring. So I thought that was funny. Anyway, so I think another plus, I like how Hartnell loses his cool and shouts. I mean, because it's just funny to me because they're so whimpering and Hartnell's just losing his cool, and he just looks like he's having fun shouting, so yay, Hartnell.
He's not taking any crap from anyone, is he?
Something else good, I honestly like how they try to make the aliens look like individual aliens. Like, the masks are all...
And they give them the society as well. I know it's, not necessarily the most exciting thing, but they are, they're not just one-dimensional bad guys. There are
but think about it.
Aliens and bad
up until
aliens.
This point, the Daleks all look the same. The Vord all looks the same, but the Sensorites, they've got slightly different masks. It just wasn't like a cookie cutter alien. They really tried to make them like a society in like a weird way. So that's kind of good, but I'm glad that the whole thing exists because that means I have not spent years wondering what it looked like and obsessing over its loose cannon recon.
Can you imagine if you'd spent 20 years saying how it was your favorite story and you wished it would come back, and then it came back and you watched it and thought, oh.
So, because a bad story exists, it has saved my OCD for more deserving stories like Dalek Master Plan. So thank you, BBC, for not burning this, I guess. So I think my final takeaway is that it's sad. There's so much promise here. And if you want to skip Sensorites, I don't blame you, because there's some stories that have bad reputations that don't really deserve them, like the Gunfighters. You guys haven't got there yet?
Yeah.
but when you do, it's not as bad as people say it is. But the Sensorites, it kind of deserves its reputation of being slow and boring. But I'm telling you, you owe it to yourself to at least watch episode 1, because there's some genuinely interesting, good stuff happening. It's kind of like the Space Museum in a weird way. Like, that first episode is really good, and then it just evolves into 3 episodes of running around. So anyway,
spoilers.
That's what I think. And then it leaves you on a cliffhanger. The Doctor's going to throw Ian out of the TARDIS the next time they land. What's going to happen? Oh my God!
Oh my goodness! Unless you guys have got anything else to say, I think we should wrap up our review and give it a score out of 10.
Okay.
Ooh.
So, Ian, I'm going to come to you first. I have a feeling this is going to be possibly your lowest score so far.
I'm going to let me think about. No, so to be fair, we've gone with a couple of 7s, 8s, 4. It's a 3.
Ooh, that's low.
Yeah,
that's low. Okay, I think what saves it is the first episode, and possibly a bit the last episode, as Ben was saying. If not for those, then it would have been a lot lower. I am going to give it a 5.
Ooh, you averaged it out. Wow.
Yeah. Ben?
Do you know how when they look at the very first story and they always say it's Unearthly Child plus 3 boring stories in a cave, so they always tend to say episode 1 of Unearthly Child is 10 out of 10 and the rest of it is blah blah blah. I'm going to do that here. Episode 1 of the Sensorites is a 9 out of 10 for me. There's so many good things. The imagination, the promise, the premise, the set design. It would get a 10 out of 10, but that Maitland's acting is just Episode 2 through 6, I want to say 3, but there's still some good stuff sprinkled in. I'll give it a 4.
Yeah, I think that's fair. But anyway, enough of what we think about the Sensorites. We want to hear what you guys think about the Sensorites. It's time for some feedback.
I've got mail.
Okay, it's time for feedback. I have to say, this is the most feedback we've had so far. I want to thank everyone for taking the time out to tweet us and comment on Facebook. It's been brilliant. So let's dig into it. I put out a post saying, what do you think of the Sensorites? Underrated classic or interminable tosh? And this is what you guys had to say. So in terms of what I have, we've got Harry Draper, who's at Bowtie Animation on Twitter. He said, no, I don't think Donald Tosh wrote it.
Clever! I love it.
Yes. And we have at Paul Morris 7777. He says, underrated classic. It's too long and there's some poor acting. The basic plot is sound. Okay.
Okay.
And next we have Ollie Acco at Ollie Reviews 99. And they say underrated classic. So it's sounding fairly positive so far. Next we have the lovely David Kitchen from the Doctor Who show. David says, let down in part by some poor acting and a slow initial pace. However, things do pick up well as the story goes on. Hartnell is very strong here, and like the best of his era, there's a strong use of imagination with the creation of a new and very different world for the TARDIS crew to explore. Also, as Mad Larry Miles once pointed out, this is a very important story for the show, as for the first time the Doctor sticks around to solve the problem, just because he wants to help out. As we said, yeah. Even after curing Ian and making peace with the Sensorites, he stays around to work out the cause of the problem. Worthy of a second look. Thank you, David. And next we have Gareth, that's at Liquid Paranoia on Twitter. He says, it's ambitious, the realisation is okay, I like Susan gets to be properly weird, it's an alright story. Which I think is fairly common from a lot of our correspondents, thanks for that. Keith Say says both. So it's utter tosh and a classic.
Classic tosh.
I can kind of see where he's coming from. Yeah, classic tosh, yeah.
Classic tosh, I like it.
Walter M. at Harligator68 says, I seem to recall it being much more on the interminable side. Yeah, I don't think you're going to get too many arguments from us guys here. Al Reviews Who, at Al Reviews Who on Twitter. The former, so he says it's a classic. When I watched it for the first time, I found the second half really dragged, but now I find it a really enjoyable story. So, thank you for that. We have Lewis Stands Frobisher at Butters_Lewis. The first 2 episodes are fantastic and the rest isn't as good, but I still like the rest just because I'm a 60s weeb. I'm not sure what a weeb is, but thank you for that. Rachel Wild, who is at R.A. Wild. All I can say is that Ian wearing that shirt is sexy. Well, there you go.
Oh no, she means Ian Chesterton.
Yeah, not you, Ian. No. Antonio Amaral, that's at Crinoid Roots, says the first 2 parts are great, and then it turns into a political thriller and gets boring.
Thriller.
Irving Braxiatel at Saint Merrin says it's ambitious and I want to love it, but it's rather silly with some great moments. And we have CEO of 6 Doctor Apologists at D Manady. And they say, I love the Sensorites and the first couple of eps are nice, but overall it's very weak. We have 2 more from me. We have 2 Monkeys Review. And their Twitter handle is at @we_Claude. It's pretty good. Not as boring as its reputation suggests. It's interesting that some of the Sensorites are sympathetic and some of the humans are bad. Kind of novel for early Who. Plus, I have a soft spot for anything with the original TARDIS crew. Yeah, they are great, aren't they?
Yeah.
And finally from me, we have Robin Parry at Robin Parry on Twitter. And they say, I enjoyed it and was unclear why it was often considered naff. And their faces are terrific. So thank you all for your feedback. And we're going to go to Ben next. Ben, who do you have there?
I have a message here from the Doctor Who show at the DW show. They say, quite shite. I almost said quiet shite. Quiet shite. I love that band. Come on, feel the
Quite
noise.
shite, yeah.
Quite shite. Quite shite. Yeah, very nice and to the point, DW show. Thank you. Tim at Doctor Who Podcasters says, could do with being 4 parts shorter, ! And it's got 2 hearts to it. Thank you, Tim. 42 to Doomsday at 42 to Doomsday. Mark and Rob, hey guys. They say, it's a slog! With 3 ! The book is better, IMO, but that cliffhanger is pretty cool. Yes, thank you, Mark and Rob.
Yeah.
Oh, those guys, 42 to Doomsday, they put the fun down under.
They do. I heard some feedback from some guy called Ben in Indiana on their last episode I listened to.
Oh, that's my evil clone. Or am I the evil clone
right?
and that was the good one? I don't know. The Sirens of Audio at Audio Sirens say, I wouldn't say that it is interminable, but it's pretty hard going. I love the concept of it and get excited when I start watching, but it's probably the slowest moving story of Series 1. Thank you, Sirens. And finally, Harry Whitley, or Whiteley, I think it's Whitley, at Harry_Whitley says, love it.
Oh, very succinct.
Very succinct. Not quite as succinct as Quiet Shyet, but, hey, love it. What are you going to do?
Ian, what have you got?
Let's see if I've got anything that can compete with the brevity of Quite Shite. Jeff Waddell. But now, I'm not sure if he's beginning with an epithet or a comment here. He says, he's either saying Hartnell on fire or he's saying Hartnell on fire. Either way, that's a terrible mental image. He goes on to say Hartnell on fire, an excellent 4-part story, isn't it always, but too long at 6 episodes. And he's right. The Sensorites are a bit dim, but there's enough in here to make it entertaining. That's my own I'm putting those in there. The first 2 parts are more interesting and suspenseful than what comes after, but good nonetheless. So thanks for that, Jeff. Then we have Alistair Micklejohn. Says, not a massive fan of the story, but William Hartnell saves it, which is, debatable. Mary F. at Mexter says, so very long, bores the life out of me. I think Mary F. is possibly my spirit animal, and we should maybe
I think you could be right
retire
there,
to a desert island together and never watch the Sensorites. Peter at the Sentai Guy says, it's nothing spectacular, but I enjoy it all the same, which shows, admirable lack of...
They've got a bit of stamina there, haven't they?
Yeah. Marie Claire, hashtag bring back the Sensorites. I've got a hashtag of my own here, please don't. Not even the New Adventures brought back the Sensorites, and I'm looking at them all right now.
Wait, seriously, really?
Yeah, never.
The New Adventures didn't? And did Big Finish do a Sensorite box set?
They've probably got 3 box sets.
Yeah, they've probably done about 10
Okay, all right. I was going to say.
The mind powers. We love stories. Yes. Where did we get to? The Who Society. Underrated classic. Yes, the pacing has issues, but there's such wonderful imagination and charm. Actually, that's probably true. That's another very good and very even-handed comment. Matt Bjorkman says, an enjoyable, if mediocre, story. So, damning with faint praise there. Nigel Walker, I enjoyed it. It's very much of its era, but still enjoyable. Harrison Chase, classic Tosh. James Stoker at Apoco Trout says, it's both, for sure. It has a lot of good ideas and a lot of atmosphere and charm, but its pacing is atrociously inconsistent, so all the good parts are separated by like 10-minute stretches where absolutely nothing happens. That's actually what it says on the DVD cover. Liam South at Your Ultimate Foe. He's really not. Episodes 1 to 3 are better than episodes 4 to 6, but overall, I really like it. Bit of an outlier there. And Christopher Leeper at Creative Chris 37. Underrated. Now he's put that in block capitals, so he's really
He really means it.
Really does. The clip.
Well, that's what I love about Doctor Who fandom, because for every story there's someone out there who really loves it.
That's true.
I love the Horns of Nyman. Some people don't like it. They're
Okay,
wrong,
that needs to
but
be
I do love that show.
That needs to be something that you guys need to watch out for as you start this 2,700-year journey. Take note. Are there any stories that you guys are going to do where no one has anything good to say about it? There's got to be one.
Well,
Surely there's one.
yeah.
Colony in Space. I'm looking right at you, man. Come on. There's got to be one.
I don't mind that.
Oh, really?
Anyway,
right.
I'm worried
We got
about
some
Trial of a
controversy
Time
going
Lord
here.
now. Oh, no.
Oh. So thanks for that, Ian.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much again for all that feedback. It's been brilliant hearing from everyone, and keep it coming.
Oh, yeah. I got to tell you guys, I can't wait to listen to the next episode of All the Time in Space, because I got to know what happens. Does the Doctor actually toss Ian out of the TARDIS in the Reign of Terror? Does he throw him out of the TARDIS in the Reign of Terror and leave? What's going to happen? Da!
He did kind of flip quite quickly, didn't he? It wasn't just a sort of a gradual building of his tempo until he just let fly. He just really turned on a sixpence, didn't he?
Yeah, that's actually a really funny scene, because they actually show a model rocket flying off, and it's actually a really good rocket. Actually, it shows it's flying, and it kind of rotates a little bit. It's
I remember thinking at the time I saw it that is actually, I've seen a lot worse effects in, say, 80s Who.
Yeah.
It was for a little throwaway disposable shot, it was really nicely done.
Actually, is that the first spaceship we see in Doctor Who in Series 1?
I think you could be right.
I think it is.
Well, there were the Sensorite kidney bean spaceships, but other than that,
count those, though. They're not proper spaceships.
But anyway, like Ian says, well, at least they know where they're going, and the Doctor's like, implying that I don't. That's it. Get out.
How dare you?
Let the door hit you.
Stand there. I'm going to give you the beating of your life.
So
Yes.
you know, people, if you don't actually want to go and get Reign of Terror and see how Ian manages to charm his way back into the Doctor's good graces over the course of 6 episodes, you can just listen to the next podcast. I'm sure Mark will tell you what happens. So yeah.
Ben, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure as always to have you along.
Thank you guys, Ian, Mark. I'm loving the new podcast. I love the energy, the conversation. Keep it on going. I'm looking forward to Air Zone Solution too. Okay.
Is there anything you'd like to give a little plug to while you're here?
Nothing. I am a retired, failed podcaster. I don't even think the podcast
maybe
that
retired,
I...
but you're certainly not failed in my eyes.
I don't think the podcast that I was...
entertaining podcasters out there.
Oh, shucks. Thank you. I don't think it's up anymore. It was called Tower of Technobabble.
We need to get that back out on the air again.
Thank you.
Even if we just get some reruns, because, you know, that's a good show.
Oh, maybe Philip Morris can find some lost episodes and put it up on the internet. You never know. But so the only thing I'm going to plug is Nerdology UK and
I hear that's a good show.
All of Time and Space. So yeah, thank you guys very much. I thoroughly loved it.
Thank you, Ben. So until next time, thank you for listening, and we will be back next time with the Reign of Terror. So until then, goodbye.
Sorry, I was trying to find my umbrella because of the reign of terror. Goodbye, everyone. Goodbye. Goodbye, Duggan. Goodbye.
If you'd like to get in touch, you can email us at mailbagofrassilon@gmail.com. We're also on Twitter @TimeEndSpacePod, and you can also find us on Facebook. If you want to leave some audio feedback, there is a link in the show notes. You can use your phone or your computer and leave up to 60 seconds of feedback, or if you're listening via the Anchor website, you can click on the message button and leave your audio. We'd love to hear from you. And thank you to Momo Tempo for providing our theme music.